Good morning, Katrina.
Hello.
Good morning, April.
What are you doing?
What does it look like I'm doing?
I don't know. Standing by a ceiling fan?
Okay, so you can see me?
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Good. Okay. There we go.
That's a very bright ceiling fan.
Pardon?
And so that's a very bright ceiling fan.
Yeah, because it's on. I'm using figuring technology out this morning, so I'm using my phone because it has a better camera than my computer. My computer's very green. So everything's rock and rolling there. How are you today?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning.
Good. How are you?
Me and Jen are going to be.
Unbelievable. Thanks for asking.
We're going to be going through our front storage room today.
Are you? Fantastic. That's going to be exciting. Should be fun stuff.
I'm just happy to get out of the house.
No doubt.
Put me to work.
No doubt. Let me tell you something, and I'll cover it a little bit in a meeting in a bit or two, but if anybody wants to know what being retired without money feels like, this is exactly it. You're stuck at home. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't go on vacation. You can't go buy a car. And you can browse the internet and call it internet shopping instead of window shopping, and that's it.
That's right.
Let's make sure that's a full understanding on that.
Definitely don't want that.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Absolutely, isn't that the truth? All of us dream about the same thing in retirement. We want to spend time with our grandchildren. We want to go and travel the world and see the world. We want to do some of the things that we sacrificed earlier in our life so we can enjoy it and do it. So it's a game. There's no question about that. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning.
And how are you in this beautiful morning?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely unbelievable. Thank you very much for asking.
Awesome.
We're going to wait about another 30 seconds, and then we're going to get this bad boy on the road. So,
Okay.
in case there's a couple of late stragglers, which there might be every now and then, we know that. So, there we go. We're going to try to
stop walking.
Pardon?
You got to stop walking. You're getting us dizzy.
Okay, well, how about if I do that? Is that better?
Yeah.
That's better.
Okay, good. So we'll get this bad boy on the road. We'll do it properly that way then. Okay, we're going to get this thing started. So sorry about that. Didn't want to give everybody a headache. We're going to start off by muting everybody. There we go. And then we're going to close that so I can see myself. Makes it a little bit easier. And hopefully everybody gets a chance to do that. I'm going to probably walk around the 10. The reason why I've done the setup this way is I find it a whole lot more comfortable for myself when I'm walking around. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be on the call this morning. We've had some amazing calls over the last 45 days. So much information, so much great knowledge has been passed around. You've literally got 5 years of experience in 45 days just from listening and taking the time to study these. I'm not sure how many people have actually had the opportunity to go back and go over it again and go over some of these calls again, especially some of your favorite calls. But do that every chance you get. Download them and listen to them, because I guarantee when you're busy writing out answers and when you're busy writing out ideas, there was things that you missed. There was things that you skipped. Today's call is mostly going to be about two things. One of them came up from Tom and April and Brett and Taylor, and it just went on and on. Mike Wynn, Sean Hesse, so many people taught you so many things that you need to know about really being successful in the home. But even with all that knowledge, it's almost like looking at the Chrysler building in New York City. It's an absolutely beautiful building from probably about the 10th floor up. But it's the 4 or 5 floors under the ground that we don't see that is holding that entire building up. So it's the foundation by which you build your knowledge on. It's the foundation by which you build your experience on that's going to determine how successful you are. So we're going to start off with a negative subject. And that negative subject is this. Why is it we see continuously in this business people come in who have all of the talent, all of the ability, every ingredient that we're looking for, and they still do not achieve the success that they want. And there's a few reasons for that. The first reason I'm going to tell you is something that we cannot do anything about, and that is work habits. Work habits were established by your parents long before I met you, before April met you, before Brett met you. You either have work habits or you don't have work habits. Now, do understand one thing. Work habits also depend a little bit on the passion you have for what you're doing. If you love doing something, you're going to find the attitude and you're going to find the work habits to do it. And if you don't, you're going to find the excuses. David Carter says it best. If it's really important to you, you'll find a reason and you'll find a way. And if it's not, you'll find an excuse. So the first thing is work habits. And I'm not going to talk a lot about work habits because I can't teach you work habits. I can only teach you desire. The second thing is confidence. Do you have the confidence in yourself to learn the things that you're going to need to learn? And confidence is a weird thing because all of us lack confidence from time to time. And April said it a couple of weeks ago when she said the most important thing you can find is a mentor, somebody who's going to hold you accountable. Chris Roberts talks about a lot in his Dreamcatcher dreams. You need to, you need somebody who, when you're sitting there saying, I don't know I can do this, to remind you, yeah, you can do this. Yes, you can make a difference. And that's really, really important. So build your confidence up. Find the mentor. Find the person who's going to tell you, yes, you can. Not the person who's going to say, I kind of agree with you, man. I think you're in over your head. Because we all have that feeling sometimes. The third thing, and we've all heard this before, and most of us heard this for you people who are new to sales, is called SNIOPS. The SNIOPS is S-N-I-O-P. And it stands for the susceptible negative influence of other people. And that's who we surround ourselves by. Do you have people who are on your team? Or you have people who are cheerleaders for Team Carmen? Or do you have people who are constantly trying to remind you of all of the failings you've had in the past and all the dreams you had in the past that didn't come true? So it's the SNIOPS. The next one, believe it or not, is the one that probably surprises me the most, but I think it's probably one of the ones that really hits home the most. And I've made so many mistakes in my life that I'm not worthy of having success. I'm not worthy of doing great things. I'm not worthy of teaching other people and leading other people to where they need to go. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. The greatest thing about this opportunity, the greatest thing about being part of the teams and dealerships that you're part of, is it doesn't matter what you did before yesterday. In fact, yesterday could be the biggest screw-up day of your life. And if you come in today with the right attitude and the right work habits, all will be forgiven. The business will forgive you immediately. The customer you're going to see today doesn't know anything. The person you're training today doesn't know how bad you screwed up yesterday. So you need to believe in yourself. You need to believe in that worthiness. And the final thing, and I want everybody on this call, dealers and safety advisors included, and that is fear. I want you to write down when you get off this call today what you fear most if you give it everything you got and you fail. What do you feel? Zig Ziglar says fear is F-E-A-R, false evidence appears real. And what is it that you feel? What is it that's slowing you down from actually listening to the person ahead of you who's actually farther ahead along in the line of success? So they obviously know how to get to that point. What is stopping you from taking it with full, unbridled faith? You need that blind faith sometimes. So you need to be able to do those. So those are the things that stop people who have everything going for them from hitting the success that they really should. You know, Brandon Stout was on the call yesterday with GHS, and Brandon did an amazing job. Great job there, Brandon. You know, and he was out there, and the amount of calls and the amount of texts that I got, and I was talking to April yesterday, that she got from people saying, man, that Brandon, he's spot on. He really knows his stuff. He's motivated. He's excited. And I'm sitting there in the back of my mind saying, here's a person who's been in direct sales for a year. He didn't dream about being direct sales when he was in high school. He didn't play door-to-door salesman when he was in college. He didn't go over to Afghan and start knocking on doors in Afghan and see if anybody there wanted to buy a vacuum cleaner. Here's a person who came in with nothing more than good work habits, confidence, okay? He didn't have any fears. He has fears. Everybody has some fears, but he didn't have the fears that he couldn't learn it, and he's coachable. So I want you to think, how is it that a person who has less experience than probably 90% of the people on that dealer call yesterday, how is it that he can impress all of those people so much? And he did it because his attitude is right. But he also did it because he had great coaching. And he was willing to be coached, and he's willing to learn. And he comes every day looking to learn. And you see the questions that Brandon asks on a day-to-day basis. And that tells you this guy is eager. He wants to grow. He's not sitting there saying, hey, they just had me on the dealer call of GHS. I've arrived. I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't need to learn anymore. I don't need to grow anymore. It's the exact opposite. So I want you to look about that. And then also, he loves what he does. A lot of the dealers out there who on Sundays, they're sitting around their office. When I first opened my very first office, there was not a single Sunday I didn't go into my office. When I was at that time, I was dating my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. And on Sundays, we'd go into the office. And we would just sit there and we would clean up the office and we'd put some goal posters up. There was no pressure. There was no stress. It was nice and fun. The phones weren't ringing, people looking for jobs. There wasn't any customers. It was just, that's where I wanted to be. That was my castle, was being in the office. I know people who do everything they can to try to avoid being in their business. That's crazy. You've got to love what you do. And what Brandon Stout shows every single time he's out there is he loves what he does. The day before, he went out and made 2 protections. He protected 2 families during this pandemic that we're going through that weren't protected beforehand. Now, I understand we have all of these crazy things that are happening, but what would have happened if one of those homes would have had a fire during this pandemic? He could have easily said, well, you know something, the governor doesn't want me out there protecting anybody. They don't want me moving around. There are safe ways of doing things. And Brandon went out there and found that. So those are the type of things that I want to cover over a little bit this morning is how do we make sure you're successful? How do we make sure that all of this information that we've shared over the last 45 days not only sinks in, but sticks? How do we make sure, most important of all, that you get it? Because that's what it comes down to. Don't deny anything else. Don't try to think about anything else. This business is not going to be about all the knowledge you have and all the experience you have. We got people in here who've had 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of experience who are just putzing along. And we got people like Brandon here who've got 1 year experience. That means from the moment he started as a safety advisor, not 1 year's experience as a dealer. 1 year experience total from coming in on an interview, sitting in a training class, asking himself, what the hell am I doing here? To the point where they actually want him talking to dealers all over the world and sharing information that's going to help them grow their dealership. How do we make sure you get it? And it starts off by a really simple thing. And a lot of you people have seen me do this meetings, but this is for the benefit for you again, a refresher, and for new people. It starts off with a simple letter, and that is M. I don't know if you can see that or not. I hope you can. If you want to be great at something, you need to be motivated. You need to have that M. Now, today they have a new terminology for it. They use the word why. What is your why? Well, what is your motivation? What is your goal? What is it? You've got to be, if you want to be great in this business, if you want to be great as a safety advisor, if you want to be great at protecting families, if you want to be great at leading people, if you want to be great at motivating and helping people, then you better have a motivation inside of yourself that you love what you're doing. That's not the outside. That's not enthusiasm, excitement, or anything. That's not walking around going, yeah, I got this. That's how you feel inside. What are your goals? Do your goals align with you being great in this business? The goal is there. I want to make sure I can help my church. I want to make sure I can help my family back in South Africa or wherever. There's so many ways and reasons and motivation. But if you want to be great at this, you got to be motivated, and that comes on the inside. You got to find all of the reasons that you can possibly find and write them down. And those are going to be your motivation. Those are going to be your why. And then those are going to get attached to making the goals that you want. So it's real important for you to be motivated. The next one is one that we all work on, and that's the A. You got to have the right attitude. You got to come in every day believing that you can do this. There is going to be days you're going to have doubts. There's days that I have doubts. There's days that Chris Roberts and David Carter and Gary Robinson have doubts. There's moments those things happen. And then we quickly smack ourselves across the face, wake up, smile, and say, no. If someone else can figure out how to do this, I can figure out how to do this. You know, there's enough books out there that tell you if you do anything 10,000 times, if you study anything for 10,000 hours, you will become great at that. Well, that's absolutely true. When you look at people like Tiger Woods who are great with the golf club, well, you take a look at anybody who's on the PGA Tour and ask yourself how many hours have they put in to hitting that golf ball. But the most important thing about attitude is you got to have an attitude that you believe you can learn this. You've got to believe the people teaching you are teaching you what you need to learn. That's the most important thing. Attitude is all about belief. It's not about being positive. You can have self-doubts, but still believe in the people above you. You can have self-doubts and still believe in the people beside you. There's probably times when some of you who are married have self-doubts about your marriage, but you believe in your partner that this is just a temporary situation. This is just me having a negative moment. This is just me having well, that didn't work very well, but we'll keep working on that. I'll put that up a little higher and see if that works up there. Those are the type of things. So you need to have the attitude. If you want to be great, you got to have the attitude. Now, most people think, well, that's all I got to be. All I got to do is walk around being positive. The reason why you hear a lot of us, especially a lot of us old salespeople, talk about it is we talk about Zig Ziglar a lot. And Zig Ziglar was really, really good that when we take the time to think about it, but I'm going to tell you my favorite story about Zig Ziglar. And that is when Zig Ziglar talks about attitude. And he was doing an interview, and I can't remember who the interview was, but I think it was Robert Frost. And the gentleman interviewed and said, Zig, you just can't tell me that if I'm positive, my life is going to be perfect. You just can't tell me that if I'm positive, everything's going to work out for me. And Zig Ziglar said, no, it's not. What I can tell you is being positive will allow you to get through the bad part faster. And attitude means everything. He goes, I want you to imagine me and you, we're on Now, I have two attitudes I can have. I can sit there and say to you, George, you're in trouble. Because I got no clue what I'm doing. In fact, George, you're a goner. I'm just going to have to sit here and watch you, and that's the way it's going to be, buddy. He goes, that's one attitude I can have. Or I can sit there and say, George, relax. I got this. I've watched Discovery Channel so many times. I've watched them do this operation so many times. I'm going to go down to the seashore and I'm going to get a seashell, real sharp one. I'm going to get back up here. Don't you worry about it, buddy. I'm going to slice that open. I'm going to get that bad appendix out of there. I'm going to get some of these vines over here and I'm going to use them for stitches. We're going to have you up and new in 6-7 weeks, but don't you worry. I got this handled. Now, George, which attitude do you want me to have? And that is what is needed. So you need to have that attitude. But it's just more than just having attitude. The next thing that you need is skill. Skill is, I'm probably showing it backwards enough for everybody, I just noticed. Skill is knowledge. You need to get the knowledge. I have the knowledge for golf. I've read enough books to say, hey, your feet got to be the same distance as your shoulder. Your back's got to be nice and straight. So there's a nice straight plane there. You got to be led over properly. You got to have your grip holding properly. You got to keep your eyes on the balls. You got to swing through with your hips. I can do all that. But also when I hit the ball, I can tell you, I got no clue where it's going. I know where I want it to go. And occasionally it goes there. That's why we go back. That Tom Nassau will tell you. All you need is 2 really good holes and 18 holes, and you're going to go back believing you can do all 18. But neither one of us have ever broken par yet, so we've never had 18 on the same day. But you've got to have that skill. You've got to learn that. And that is exactly what all of these people, from Paige and to Sue Jenna, all of these people, Brandon and Bill and Chris Putnam, have shared with you these last 6-7 weeks. You've got so much knowledge right now. Skill is knowledge. So now you know it. And you written it. A lot of you people are doing the test. I want to congratulate both Jacob Maloney and Sarah Morris. Both hit 100% on the quiz yesterday. Obviously, I'm not doing a very good job of these questions. Great job. But you've got the knowledge now. You've got the skill. But you've got to take that skill, and you need to take that skill to the next level. And that is, you need a technique. You need to use that skill over and over and over again. Confidence is nothing more than doing something so many times and failing so many times that you finally get it right every time, that you feel good about it. You know, I love watching cooking shows. There's probably nothing that's more impressive in watching a cooking show than seeing somebody just hitting those onions, just slicing those onions. I'm sitting there saying, I'm waiting. There's got to be a cooking show where someone slices their finger off. I'm waiting, and they're just slicing through it, and they're doing it while they're before. You can slice that bad boy that fast. But that's all it is. Technique is confidence. Technique is doing it over and over and over again. Doing it so good to the point where I call it, what I call it, you've heard me say it in meetings, that out-of-body experience. Where you're doing the safety meeting with the customer and you're asking all the questions and everything's going, but at the same time, you're able to read their body language. At the same time, you're able to think 3 or 4 questions ahead. At the same time, you're able to glance around their house and get all this information because you're able to do the 2 things at once. It's the exact same skill that you have and technique you have right now when you drive. When you drive, do you really think about, uh-oh, I'm coming to a corner, I better turn my blinker on? Do you remember when you were doing driver's education, when you first started driving? You're trying to make sure you stopped right at the line, but usually you stopped a little bit before the line. You know, when you hit the brake, your car would jerk rather than a slow, smooth stop. You know, when you hit the gas, the same thing. I remember the very first time my dad had me drive the car. He said, Carmen, you drive. I could not stay between those 2 white lines. I was all the way this way. He goes, don't get back. And I'd be all the way back over this way. Today, I can drive and I don't even think about it. So that's the type of skill that you need to develop as a safety advisor. You need to develop as a trainer. You need to develop as a manager. You need to develop as a dealer. All of those things are very, very important. And all of these things make a difference. The next thing, and something that, you know, people that's dear to my heart, and that is the E. And the E stands for enthusiasm. If you can't get excited about something, it doesn't mean anything to you. That is a fact. Enthusiasm is how you feel on the inside. If you don't love painting, you're never going to be a great painter. If you don't love golfing, you're never going to be a great golfer. You can enjoy it, but you've got to be passionate about it. If, you know, and doing these things, this is the same thing. If you're not passionate about your husband, if you're not passionate about your wife, then you're not going to show the energy that is needed. Now, I've had people say to me, well, Carmen, I have a hard time getting as excited as you. I have a hard time getting all that energy built up inside me and sharing it. I call bullshit on that. I'll call it bullshit on that every single day of the week. Because the same person who tells me that, if they were sitting there watching TV and all of a sudden the lotto numbers came up and they had a lotto ticket and they followed the numbers, and when the last number hit, the first number hit, they're going to smile and say, hey, that's nice. The second number hit, they're getting a little bit excited. The third number hits, oh my God, I just won the 50 bucks. The fourth number hits, I'm over 100. Come on, baby, let's go. Here's my number. The fifth number hits, all of a sudden now their heart is in their throat. Because that sixth number is worth $12 million. And if that sixth number hit, you think they're going to sit there and say, wow, that's nice. I just won $12 million. And do you think their next phone call is going to be to their mom, their dad, their husband, their wife, their sister, their brother, and say, hey, honey, yeah, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Do you really believe for a second the most quiet, shy person on this call? Ask yourself, you just won $12 million. The first phone call, who's it going to be to, and how is your energy level going to be? Or is it going to be something like, holy shit! My God! I just won $12 million! I don't know what to do! I'm freaking out here! I don't want to lose the ticket! Get over here and help me guard the ticket! You would be so energetic. Don't be scared to be enthusiastic. Don't be scared to be excited. I remember when I first came in this business, the very first sales meeting I sat in, they finished the sales meeting off with a sales chant. They had everybody go, give me a E, give me a U, give me an M, give me a P, pump, 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 and everybody's excited. And I'm sitting there saying, my God, what am I doing? I was shy. I didn't understand energy. I felt enthusiastic from time to time. I've done things that made me feel really excited, but I didn't know that in the work environment. But when you start showing enthusiasm, you're showing people that you love what you're doing. When you show people that you love what you're doing, you're showing them passion. And they're more apt to believe what you're saying. They're more apt to believe what you care about. Those type of things make a huge difference. So these things here, being motivated inside, having the proper attitude, attaining the skills, getting really good at those skills by getting the technique, and having enthusiasm, those are 10% of what you need to be successful, 10% to what you need to be a great husband, a great bowler, a great golfer, a great dealer, a great leader, a great safety advisor, a great anything. Those are 10%. Very important 10%. If you don't have these, it's not going to work. But if you want to master, and this stands for M-A-S-T-E-R, if you want to master something, if you want to be truly great as a golfer, you want to be truly great as a safety advisor, you want to be truly great in this business, then you have to be able to do the R. And those who've been in this meeting can know what the R is, probably. Some of you might have even forgot. I've been doing this meeting for over 40 years, and in 40 years, nobody has ever come up with what the R stands for. This is 90%. 90% of what you're going to need to be successful is right there in that R. 90%. The most important part of all of this. And you would think being motivated, having the right attitude, having the skills and knowledge, having the technique, having the enthusiasm would be important, and they are. Without it, forget it. Because all this is here is 90% of nothing. But if you've got this, this is what makes a difference. And if you already wrote down the R, if you haven't, try to think for a second. I'll give you 3 or 4 seconds to write down the R. I want you to think about what the R can stand for. Now, I'm going to tell you what it's not. It's not responsible. R-E-B-O-U-N-D, rebound. Your life. You have to be able to have the worst moment and be able to come back the next day with a smile on your face saying, man, am I ever glad yesterday's over with. I'm going to learn from yesterday and I'm going to rebound. You got to be able to come out of that customer's home who maybe said everything wrong and be able to say, well, you know, sometimes they're like that, and be able to rebound. You have to be able to have a fight with your husband or wife and be able to wake up the next morning still in love and be able to rebound. You've got to be able to hit that golf ball in the water and say, okay, well, now I'm going to adjust because this time it's not going to go in the water, and be able to rebound. If you don't have the ability to rebound, you don't have the ability to be successful. Because I'm going to tell you, there's nobody I've ever read, and if you take the time to read successful people's books, the first 2 or 3 chapters, I think, are all read by the same person. Because the first 2 or 3 chapters always start off with how tough it was. I've never read a successful book in my entire life, and maybe that happens and those people don't write the books, but I've never read a successful book that started off by saying, you know, I decided to become a multi-millionaire, so I decided to go to work. I showed up for work and I became a multi-millionaire. God, that was easy. They all had a tough. If you read every successful person, if you know successful people, talk to them, and you'll find out in their stories, it starts out with maybe they had some success in the beginning, but then things got tough where they had really close to quitting, where they're really close to giving up, and they rebounded. I'm going to tell you that was my story. I started off in sales, didn't want to be a salesperson. You know, very simple. I'm not going to bore you with it. But I was a good salesperson because I can work hard. Then I became a really great sales trainer because I loved training. Then I became a distributor. My first year as a distributor, I was number 7 in the world. We sold over 2,200 vacuum cleaners in one office. The second year, I did 1,800. Still pretty respectable. But just a little after the second year, I was completely broke. Nobody told me we should save some money. I had a Corvette. I had the nicest apartment of all of Montreal. I was a 20-year-old kid who thought that, hey, he died and went to heaven. I made the Wolf of Wall Street look tame. It was crazy. And at that point in time, I left the business. And I was extremely in debt. And I went out into the world. And the best job offer I got was as an insurance salesman paying $35,000 a year. And I was $200,000, well, in today's dollars, $200,000 in debt. There was no chance that was going to work. And so I had to come back. And after 4 or 5 days, I just realized the only place I can make the money that I need to make to get this debt paid off is starting over as a salesman. And I started over as a salesman. I didn't even have a car. My car had burned down. I remember going for the interview to the distributor, and he knew me because I was a distributor in the same region. And so he sat down, and instead of sitting across me, he came over and sat beside me. And I thought that was really nice and classy of him. And he just talked to me and goes, well, what do you want? And I said, I got to get out of debt, but I don't have a car. Well, he took me behind the building he was in, and in the back was a pond. In the middle of this small pond, it wasn't a big pond, it was only Ethiopia. But it didn't start. But it was a standard car, so you can bum start it. He goes, well, you could use that for demos. And for 7 months, I used that car, and wherever I went on a demonstration, I always tried to park on a hill. So when I came out, the car would roll down. Every now and then, some asshole would park right in front of me. And that was when it got difficult. I used to go pick up my girlfriend at her house. She doesn't know how to drive a standard. She still, to this day, doesn't know how to drive a standard. So she would be in the back of the car, pushing the car down the street as I'm in the car getting it started. So we all have this. So when you go out there and you read successful people's stories, they all have that. They all had to have that moment where they rebounded. They all had to have that moment where they reached inside themselves and said, hey, I got to get over this. I got to make a difference. I got to go back to my roots. You hear a lot of people saying it's so true. Go back to your basics. Go back to your work habits. Go back to being coachable. I don't care how much you think you know, you could always learn a little bit more. I'm going to tell you something. You're always learning. Chris Roberts said something the first time I met him in the room. He said something and it stuck with me. And he says, you know, when I was a safety advisor, I didn't realize at the time, but I was being interviewed for the manager's job, because the next time there's a manager's opening, they're going to look at all the safety advisors, who's going to get chosen. And when I was a manager, I didn't realize at the time, but I was being interviewed for the next dealership opening, because the next time there was going to be a dealership opening, they would look at all the managers and decide who was going to be. Well, right now, we are always being interviewed. I can tell you right now that you're being interviewed by your actions and you're being interviewed by your attitude. We have the right people right now. There's people in our organization who are not even dealers yet, I can tell you, are being interviewed to being sales directors one day. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but I can guarantee it's going to happen. And their actions and their attitudes and everything they're doing right now is going to make that difference. So it's very, very important that we do these type of things. You know, we talk about motivation. What is your motivation? You need that person. You need to find that mentor. I talked to you earlier. Find that person who believes in you. I'm going to tell you who mine was. Mine was my mother. From a very young age, my mother, anytime I said to her about anything, I don't know if I could do that, she'd smack me back to the head. You can do whatever you want. I remember when I first started dating, she'd say, what is that girl? That girl's pretty pretty. And I'd say, Mom, we didn't use those words back then, but she's out of my league. Are you crazy? You can get her and 3 girls twice as pretty as that. She was that person who, she wouldn't let me feel sorry for myself. She wouldn't let me get down on myself, no matter what the situation is. You need that. You need that being a friend. You need that being a partner. You need that being a husband or a wife. You need that being a dealer. You need that person who's going to do it, because the most important thing you need to realize is this. People who are busy doing it don't have time to think about, can I do this? They're doing it. And the only difference of people between the people who are really confident about what they're doing and the people who aren't, or the people who are confident, have failed enough times they finally figured it out, because it's not that hard. The only message I wanted to get across to everybody today is I wanted you to realize that we make a difference. We need to get excited. We need to keep learning. We need to start believing in ourselves. If you don't believe in you, who's going to? You're the only you got. And the person who needs to motivate you is always available. That's you. Anytime you need a dose of motivation, go in the bathroom, close the door, and start talking to yourself. First of all, people are going to think you're nuts. Nuts is a good thing. And you're going to start enjoying it. Bruce Glenn said it on his call 3 weeks ago. And if someone asked him the question, what do you do to get yourself motivated when you're having a bad day? His exact answer was, go on a demo. You cannot be in front of somebody motivating them without getting yourself motivated. Who motivates the motivator? The motivatee. If you're not as motivated as you need to be, go find someone to motivate. But I want to thank everybody for being on the call today. Hopefully you got a little bit out of this. I enjoyed doing it. Thank you very much for that. The quiz for today. I'm going to try to make this a little bit harder. So 17 questions. The quiz for today, the number is 01750911. That's 01750911. Again, congratulations to Jacob Maloney and Sarah Morris, both at 100% yesterday. That was absolutely amazing. Folks, I'm telling you right now, today, your attitude, your actions are being there. It's going to make the difference for you down the road. Let's all make a difference. Thank you very much. Let's have a fantastic day. And there we go.